I'm
Rah!
angry about pets.
When did we all get this dumb? Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about pets.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef. Come on, man. Use your brain.
The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now.
All right, here again in the Freestyle Man Cave studio. It's the Why I'm Angry podcast. We are getting into a kind of special podcast here. I got some stuff pre-recorded. This is all pre-recorded. We've got some things that's going to be called the Furious 5 podcast. You're going to have about 5 or 6 different little spots. I'd say maybe 5 or 6 because I think 5 turns into 6 because one of the spots turns into another thing about things, and it just gets great. But we just wanted to go over a few things before we got to that. We've had some major news in Israel. Israel has been attacked. Obviously, if you're getting your news here, it's a little late, but I wanted to kind of go through maybe some of the significance of that because a lot of people are saying quite a few things. So, key events, the list of key events here for the Israel attacks in the fighting. The Israel military said dozens of fighter jets struck more than 200 targets overnight. On Saturday, Hamas fighters from the Gaza Strip rampaged through parts of southern Israel in the deadliest Palestinian attack in Israeli history. I've heard where some of the leaders said they wanted to punch through the wall, kill Israelis or Israelites, and the ones they didn't kill, they wanted to steal back, and were there to be able to torture and make them a ransom. Make some money off of them. In this, it says Hamas wanted to change, and it'll get one. What was in Gaza will no longer be. They started an offensive from the air later on. We will also come from the ground, and this is the defense minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, speaking to soldiers near the fence with Gaza. Israel has called up an unprecedented 300,000 reservists. What people don't realize sometimes here in the U.S. is that Israel makes you go to the military. 2 years in the military, everyone, women, men. There's not really anything else, but women and men go to the military, and from there they get military training for 2 years. They serve their country. Israel is a very, even if you're not, Jewish or Christian or whatever, Muslim or whatever, if you're an Israeli person, they're patriotic. Patriotic isn't just U.S. Patriotic is, you have a love or a fondness for your country, and because they have to be in the military for those 2 years, they learn why it's important to be part of your nation, be part of the the things that that people go through. And so you kind of they're 300,000 people. They're basically just telling people to grab helmets and guns and get out there and fight, or protect yourself. So I think people are saying, like, with Gaza is a fortified area, and it's going to be tougher. They're relating it a lot to Fallujah and fighting in the tunnels and things of that nature. At the same time, we were going to Fallujah to fight against people that we honestly probably didn't have a complete understanding, or when we were fighting bin Laden, obviously we had fighting to get bin Laden. Obviously we had a hatred or a dog in the fight. We wanted that revenge or whatever. But, when you get to this point, when we've gotten 8 or 10 years later, those people, honestly, about a half a generation's gone by, and we're already at the point of forgetting a lot about 9/11. And at that point, with what's gone on, like I said, we just didn't have a lot of vitriol against those people anymore. And so it was, it's hard to stay motivated. Well, you don't have that in Israel. Israel, they've been attacked. Their people have been hurt. They're in that. They know that region also, and so jumping into that region and fighting, they know how to fight in that region. That's their land, and so, I don't think I think things are gonna happen, and I don't think this is gonna be a fast war. So I think this is gonna be one of those deals where it's gonna take some time. Now, Israel is Israel. We joke about how Israel does not make idle threats, and they don't. They are there to fight, and it's real. So you're gonna see Israel attack with a force that's probably, people will say, oh, but Palestine did, there's such a, Israel being Israel. Yeah. So, I mean, and in this point, Jewish, anything, any other, whatever you want to say, Sadducees, Pharisees, the Jewish religious zealots, the, Israeli, control over the world, the Illuminati, anything you want to say about that. Palestine has stepped in it here. And, the Hamas, I guess it's Hamas over Palestine, or the different states that Iran. I mean, this is a sad point here also, because it comes to roost on us. Had we kept the funding out of Iran, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, more later, but had we kept the funding out of Iran, why do we still have our hands overseas? This is why we have our hands overseas. Because if we didn't continue to do trade embargoes, if we didn't continue to kind of rock the boat on the communist empires, then the communist empires gain the access to resources and the thought that we are not going to stop them. What's the best deterrent? And we've talked about this. I mean, in gun control and and crime, criminals don't care about laws. Because and that's why that's why we've said over and over again, you can't legislate crime. You make a rule, you make a law, and people follow that. Most people will follow that. And there are those people who will not. and those people will be punished. And so in this kind of thing, the thing that deters people most from doing crimes is that their lives or liberty will be taken away. And so you've gotten to the point where these countries like Iran, we've taken their liberties and things away in their lives, and because we have embargoed them to have no resources, and then we were like, but we've given them an inch, now they've taken a mile. And so now it's time to straighten it down. It's time to, we're going to probably end up having to fight, go over there and at least be some kind of peacekeeping force, security force, because there's 3 or 4 different, there's the troops in Syria, there is the group Hezbollah in Lebanon, and I'm looking for the group in Syria is the Houthis, something like that. And so we're going to end up having to be some kind of security against some of those guys. So it's just a tough state that, for one, part of this comes to roost on us because we've allowed Iran to build up their coffers. Part of it is that we've allowed Iran and China and Russia to really, become a axis of power, that, they can now, they now have the power to wield and build resources and do these things. And honestly, wouldn't it be, the inside conspiracy theorist in me says, if China doesn't want to get blown up on the big stage, and Russia doesn't want to, get a real war against them, well, then hand Iran about $6 billion. They're going to go hand it right over. They're not going to give it to their people. They're not going to, actually help their country out. They're just going to hand it right over to, Iranian sponsored terrorist groups like the ones we just mentioned, like Hamas and Hezbollah and all that. So it's a tough time, and we're definitely gonna get into it with the group, but we're not. This is going to be one that we're going to talk about extensively over the course of probably years. And honestly, on the Christian basis, this could be a sign of the times. It is definitely not a good sign of the times. It's a sign that we need to start consolidating as Christians to our bases. Where the way that we become the shining beacon on the hill is to consolidate to a spot where we can condense and send out that light, where we can defend each other. And as Christians, we need to start defending each other. We need to stop going after each church. And as much as I don't agree with the way that the message is distributed at certain mega churches, and the way that and it's maybe not as much the way the message is distributed, it's the lack of certain messages, we need to start banding together. We need to build this thing and become a body again. Instead, I feel like a lot of what we've become here is we look like two ships in a storm. And I say that because we're getting beat as Christians. We're all kind of on our own, but we're there together. There are two ships there in that storm, but each one of them is competing and competing against this storm individually. And you're looking over at the other ship going, why aren't you coming to save me? Why aren't you coming to help me? Why aren't you, and they're looking at you doing the same thing, because we're all going through this together. And instead of banding together and doubling our forces and being able to attack this storm or attack this fight together, we're just building animosity against each other. And I think that with that, that's going to be our downfall. If we don't look and see what's actually happening here, and start to build bridges and start to build, that community, there will be one community or two communities, and they will either be on opposite sides of things. But you think about it, when you've got two giant heads of things, and they're going to, you want to go and fight a common enemy, the two groups are going to lose a ton more following and resources and things like that, as opposed to being able to pull it together to one big group. You just lose way more of your of what you got, so your resources. And so unless we can somehow consolidate it all down to, we're going to be together, we're Christians. Obviously there are things in the community that we've talked about with the whole trans movement and different things like that we just, we do have differing, and there are some things that, we probably are going to, cut out as groups, and we're not going to agree at all. But I think there are some fundamental purposes, fundamental difference, or fundamental agreements that we have that we can all agree on. And I think that's what we're going to have to hold on to stay as a Christian group. So, find your people, band together with your people, get your people to band together with the greater good, and stick it out. Because this isn't going to be an easy fight, and this is, like I said a couple weeks ago, or even last week, that this next big war not going to be comfortable for us. So get yourself prepared, get yourself a little garden going, get yourself a little something that you enjoy, and make that stuff that you can enjoy in the hard times. So simplify, and let's go on. So, like I said, this is pre-recorded. This is kind of the best of the Why I'm Angry podcast, the Furious 5 podcast, and we're going to shoot you over to that. Remember to follow, like, and share. Get on Twitch and follow us. That's how you're going to see the whole podcast. Otherwise, you get about a half an hour or so on YouTube and Facebook, and you'll be able to listen to the whole podcast on Friday mornings at 5:30. We wanted to make sure we still got you a podcast. We want to keep it up and keep it going. We're super quickly, closing in on our 50th podcast. And like I say, it's only because of you guys out there helping us out. So we're gonna push it over to the Furious Five. Moggs, give us a little kind of background, what you've kind of researched. I know we started this research, well, it's almost a month ago now. AI, for those who don't know, is called, or stands for artificial intelligence. We've had movies about it for years, ever since computers were kind of invented. The wheels have turned that one day the machines will take over. Arnold Schwarzenegger's made millions and millions of dollars on just that product, making movies about the machines taking over. What have you found?
Well, it sounds like that AI has been with us for a while. It already does a lot of things for us. We've got face recognition now, software that does that. We've got the word processors that we have now, and they anticipate how we're going to finish the sentence. So artificial intelligence up until recently has all been where they've taken, I guess, hardware and software and studied the patterns of our behavior with speech recognition and the patterns and facial recognition. And out of those patterns have been able to predict repetitive types of things we do. And that's all been pretty innocent type of stuff, I think, at least from my perspective. But I think the real pivot point is where now artificial intelligence is collating huge amounts of information together, and algorithms now have been written to take that information and process it in such a manner, not only the patterns that it sees in that information, but it goes the next step to interpret that information and prioritize that information into concepts and ideas that it thinks that person may want.
Right.
So, and I don't understand this part of it, but apparently there's kind of a built-in process where it improves itself each time it does a search. It becomes more and more refined and more detailed, and auto-corrects, self-corrects itself. If it seeks a certain amount of topic or a certain topic, it's able to correct any searches that weren't beneficial or weren't helpful. So it's taken kind of a turn now where information gathering is not only just the organization of information, but now the analysis and predictability of what a person may be searching for. Like your example with the intro. You gave four ideas, and it searched probably some of your background, but maybe, I don't know if it does, your program did, but they're getting to the point now that it will search your philosophical background, your religious background, financial background, not only your language, but your typical expressions that you have, and then it'll write your intro based on a lot of other information than those four things that you just listed. And so that's the I think the recent thing that we see with with ChatGPT, that now that people are really coming to the fore because it's become so useful to them in terms of particularly preparing literature and articles and search material, that it's so fast. What did it take you? 30 seconds?
Right, like I was preparing, like I was setting up the mics. Yeah, it literally, I said something and then I typed it in and then we were done. Maybe 30 seconds to a minute, only because I'm slow at typing. I mean, yeah, it's been like I work in I'm doing a lot of internet marketing and things of that nature, and it's been a godsend, honestly. And like you just said, like writing these scripts, I mean, I put in like 6 words and then four keywords to rank for, and it said it like wrote out this beautiful thing about, and it sounds like me basically. It just makes me sound better.
Yeah. So there are certain prompts that it asks you. Is that right?
Right, it had
Yeah.
4 prompts. It was like what the topic of the video is, target audience, the keyword to rank. So you can put in up to 80 characters, and basically it will make sure that those characters are put into the podcast or into
Okay.
the script, and
Uh-huh.
then you want a tone. And so I put the tone of voice as energetic. But I've seen him say like put the tone in as Christopher Walken, and
Okay.
and
Yes.
it'll write you a Christopher Walken
Yeah.
style um, script.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they say that in that context that it's terrific because it avoids any errors. I mean, you don't have to worry about stumbling over your words that way.
Right.
It's the script is written for you, and if it's a late at night, you don't want to stay up at late night writing your intro. You can tell it. It'll do it while you're sleeping.
Right.
It'll 24/7. I mean, it's around all the time. So. Uh, I think for that kind of repetitive type of work, it really is like you said a godsend. They say that things like that, like healthcare and education and law, that kind of thing, finance, like to say in business, it's going to be huge in business because so much of business is repetitive and pretty predictable mathematically
Right.
in a lot of ways that those kinds of things for just data, searching data quickly and organizing it in a way that's easily comprehensible is going to be, huge. It's just, I mean, I saw an article not long ago that said that the AI can does just as well or does just as well as any person or better on the SATs because it has all the information. So whenever a question is
Right.
answered, it just answers it quickly. So those kinds of things, education tests, law, searching all the law, history of laws, and that I think it's going to really be a kind of a pivotal, or not a pivotal, but a fundamental asset to those professions, particularly.
Well, that's what I was even talking this weekend to my uncle. He does a lot of like day trading and things of that nature on the stock market for options, and he said he literally just got on, and then he typed in write me a code for a pricing chart for with stop gaps and you know with the acceptable loss and things of that nature and what those things were, and then it just like 30 seconds it had written a program for him,
Right?
and all
Yeah,
he had to do is just drop it in.
that's amazing. No,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know how to write code. Like I have never written code in my life, never taken even like a beginner's class. I literally just told it what I needed, and it did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess it sounds like there's different levels of artificial intelligence. I mean, there's this level that's kind of basically uh, basic machine learning, where the machine learns your voice and it searches data, collates that, writes your programs for you, writes your script for you. But then there's kind of a step up where it kind of anticipates what you might want to do and presents information to you that you may not have generated on your own that it uses past information and data on the internet to put together. And I guess there's some controversy about that. If it uses other people's data for something that you're going to use, is that going to be any bridge of originality or
Right.
plagiarism? I guess it's a big problem in the art world, isn't it? I see a lot of artists.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that they're saying that the AI can do is create artwork for you. So you can tell it. I haven't had much luck with it yet, but like we have had a Central Park squirrel report, and so I asked it to put in a squirrel saying they want you like the Uncle Sam posters, and it didn't get me anything.
Okay.
Like it just came up with a bunch of weird squirrels that were like looked like they were shouting at me in other languages, and then a bunch of
Yeah.
gibberish on the screen. So
Yeah,
this
nothing but nuts, huh?
yeah, this program is not working quite as seamlessly as I've seen a few other ones.
Yeah.
But I have seen some where they're just like, make me an avatar of a Star Wars theme make me look like a Jedi. And they'll go
Yeah.
on and make an avatar of you that, looks fairly similar to you, and you become a Jedi. So, but
So I'd be appreciate. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no,
I was going to ask you what's your spin on college students or people using AI? That's a big controversial thing too, and presenting it as their own original work, like where it's graded or where you're presenting
well
information. How does that go? How's that play out?
I think it hurts us. I think we already are going down that way by, we've had spell check, and spell check is probably the most rudimentary AI that you can get.
Uh-huh.
But if you look at like kids these days, they're not teaching them cursive, which
Yeah.
you can argue is kind of a lost language, kind of like shorthand, or how to use a typewriter. But at the same point, they're now, spelling is becoming, once they get through 3rd or 4th grade spelling, when they don't have spelling class anymore, they're just no longer really continuing on in that. Even though they can read, they're not continuing on into language arts like spelling or vocabulary, because they don't have to. Because if they get on their phone and they're talking to someone, or they get on a computer and they send an email, which is also becoming a lost art, they can't, it just automatically pops up for them.
Yeah.
And then it gives you, like if you put in the word hard and you want it to be something different, you can put in all the synonyms of hard and all of the opposites, the antonyms of hard, and you can just it pops up, and you just, right now, I know with a lot of programs like Word and that, you just left click and it gives you all of the words that you could use instead of that word.
Yeah. Yeah. But is there any the thing that I guess bothers me the most in that sum is the loss of personal expression, the loss of personal participation in writing. Let's just say we're writing an English paper on King